Getting the truth and protecting people are part of the EPA's mandate. But if the air at Ground Zero was safe, why were so many people getting sick? Even some of EPA's own staff doubted the agency's assurances about safety. Among them, senior policy analyst Hugh Kaufman.
Mrs. Whitman went on national TV, smiled at the camera, and told everybody everything is safe, and it wasn't.
As I say, you know asbestos was in there, is in those buildings, lead is in those buildings. There are the VOCs. However, the concentrations are such that they don't pose a health hazard. We're going to make sure everybody's safe.
Since the 9/11 attacks, a lot of heroes that day are now fighting for their lives.
Yeah, many young men, first responders, are developing blood cancers at an alarming rate. Our Deb Fayerick checked in with one New York City firefighter who's in the middle of a struggle for his very survival, and she's here now with his story. This is so tragic, so many people suffering, particularly after the assurances that the government gave us.
Well, that's exactly right. It's sort of like a 1-2 punch, if you will, and watching this man go through this, the pain that he and his family are suffering physically and emotionally as well is really heart-wrenching. It's as if a time bomb was set, and now many who answered the call to find survivors at Ground Zero themselves are fighting for their own survival. When we first met 53-year-old retired New York City firefighter Randy Wiebicke in July, he was healthy and feeling good. His cancer was in remission. 7 weeks later, this is what he looks like. 25 pounds lighter, his body frail in the fight of his life.
It was a little rough.
Randy Wiebicke's story is that of many first responders who thought they had dodged a bullet and escaped the illnesses so many developed soon after 9/11, until last summer when the bullet hit.
My kidneys shut down, and, when your kidneys shut down, you know it.
It wasn't just kidney failure, but a rare and, for Randy, very aggressive blood cancer known as multiple myeloma, which he and his wife were convinced came from exposure to toxins at Ground Zero.
I just thought that it was over with. We went through 9/11, we went through 6 months of crying and funerals, and I thought it was over. I didn't expect to have to go through it all again.
Hundreds of first responders have died post 9/11 from various cancers, yet there's no proof exposure to Ground Zero toxins are to blame. Doctors say most cancers take longer than 9 years to develop. Randy's cancer, though, is different, and the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation says one study suggests a link is possible. Dr. Jacqueline Moline, who wrote the study, has been tracking 9/11 responders from the beginning.
We found a predominance of multiple myeloma in younger folks than we would have expected. And when we looked at the numbers, it was about 4 times more than we would have expected in that age group.
Your gut tells you what?
That I think we are going to find that myeloma is in some fashion associated with the World Trade Center.
So what happened to Randy Wiebicke this summer? In August, he chose to have an experimental type of stem cell transplant using his brother's healthy stem cells to replace his immune system. Wife Madeline captured some of it on camera.
Hey, Rand. How you feeling?
Not so good.
The chemo, 3 different kinds, every 6 hours, 8 days straight, killed Randy's bone marrow and residual cancer cells.
It was pretty rough. They got to beat you down to build you up, Doc.
Good to see you. How are you?
There is no cure for multiple myeloma, but Randy's doctor, Gunther Kona, is optimistic the new procedure will lead to a longer remission.
My hope, obviously, is that the outcome will be better with the transplantation rather than without the transplantation.
Right.
Days before the 9th anniversary of 9/11, Randy leaves the hospital. But he and Madeline are not thinking about the past, only about the year of healing ahead.
He made it through, and I think he's going to be well. I think he's going to be cured.
And I see your lip quivering a little. It's hard to talk about.
Oh, for sure. I guess you do what you have to do.
Right. And you'll dance at your children's weddings.
And hold your grandchildren.
Grandchildren who may one day hear the story of that day from a firefighter who lived through it. You know, and when you talk to firefighters, police, and these first responders, what is so frustrating for them is that no one will really say definitively that it's what they breathe at ground zero. And a gut feeling is not the same as the physical proof, the fingerprint, if you will, that they want, even need to understand why they're sick and why they're still getting sick. Karen John.
Just a little bit more about the procedure that he had. So the reason he was looking, like you said, he gained 25 pounds later was because all of that intense chemotherapy, and then he had the bone marrow.
What they're trying to do basically is they're basically trying to kill his immune system and replace it with his brother's. And now what they're watching is to make sure that his brother's immune system, all those antibodies, begins to grow within him. But really, it's going to take a full year until he even begins feeling better. Maybe by Christmas, let's say, he'll feel a little bit better, but the real healing won't begin until 6 to 12 months.
Did you keep watching your story?
Yeah, we are. We're going to do that for you.
We wish him the best.
Thanks so much.
And now to another firestorm, this one having to do with the report from the EPA's Inspector General, the man or woman who basically patrols, polices the EPA. It concerns the air people were breathing at ground zero in the hours, the days, the months following the 9/11 attack. How safe was it, or wasn't it? And what were people told about its safety and why? Here's CNN's Mike Loku.
New York Senator Hillary Clinton called the White House's actions absolutely inexcusable. This after revelations from the EPA's internal watchdog report. In the aftermath of the World Trade Center collapse, the report says, White House officials pressured the agency to assure the public that the air was safe to breathe before the agency really knew for sure.
The EPA did not have the data. They had not conducted the tests, and they lacked the samples to tell workers, parents, residents, business owners, and first responders that they need not worry.
But that's exactly what the EPA did. Then EPA Chief Christy Todd Whitman.
But from a real health problem and health concerns, we don't have to worry.
According to the report, senior officials at the EPA circulated a memo one day after the attacks specifying that all statements to the media should be cleared by the National Security Council. At some point, the report says, the White House convinced the agency to, quote, add reassuring statements and delete cautionary ones. The acting EPA chief says at no time did the agency mislead the public.
EPA did not change any cautionary statements in order to reassure the public. We're dismayed and saddened that people would even believe any of the allegations.
Clinton is demanding new testing, new cleaning, and that someone be accountable. Residents used to say the air downtown carried the scent of unsettled souls. 2 years later, more than a few questions still unsettled. Michael Oku, CNN, New York.
Employers ordered their employees back into these buildings, and thousands of us are now permanently ill.
I headlined at Radio City Music Hall with the Rockettes dancing behind me. I sang everywhere there was to sing a song, but I can't sing now because every time I try to sing now I choke.
No one can be sure how much contamination they're exposed to if they live or work in.
It's not about justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.